All right, welcome back to Outnumbered. The man accused of ambushing and killing a Houston sheriff's deputy facing a judge today. Shannon Miles is being arraigned on a capital murder charge in the shooting death of Officer Darren Goforth. The 10-year veteran shot in the back while filling up his police cruiser late Friday night. He's the 23rd U.S. law enforcement officer shot to death this year. The sheriff for Harris County believes his deputy was targeted because of his profession and is calling for an end to the wave of anti-police rhetoric sweeping the country.
We've heard Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. Well, cops' lives matter too. So why don't we just drop the qualifier and just say lives matter and take that to the bank? At this point, his only target was because he's wearing a uniform. It's unfortunate there are not many civilian occupations you can point to where you can be shot for the clothes you wear.
Casey Stiegel live from Houston for us with the latest. Casey.
And Sandra, inside that courtroom not long ago, the suspect was led in. He was shackled. There was a very heavy police presence in a relatively small courtroom. The victim's family in the first few rows, surrounded by deputies and surrounded by chaplains. At that time, the district attorney went over some of the probable cause for the capital murder charge, including the fact that the gun found with the suspect matched ballistic testing of casings found at the scene, and 15 rounds total were fired. That's new, we learned. Not much reaction from 30-year-old Shannon Miles. He spoke in a low voice answering the judge. And the judge also noted that he was represented by public defenders who were appointed to him. This community, no doubt, has been shaken to its core. Hundreds of people from the general public and brothers and sisters of law enforcement taking to the streets last night, marching from a local church to the crime scene in solidarity, wearing blue. The gas pump where Deputy Darren Goforth was gunned down has now become a memorial.
It's very tragic this had to happen, and he's a really good guy, really good officer. And I know there's people in the world that think that all cops are bad. It's not true. There's always going to be bad apples in the bunch, but he wasn't one of those.
The Harris County Sheriff himself has characterized and called this crime an execution. Sandra.
Casey Stiegel, live for us in Houston. Thank you. So, Congressman, I'll ask you the question everyone's asking today. Is dangerous rhetoric to blame for the brutal murder of this officer?
Oh, I think it plays a role. And I love hearing the sheriff finally saying what needed to have been said a long time ago, which is, you know what, we have to appreciate our law enforcement officers. These are men and women that charge into chaotic situations. We give a lot of credit to our military, and we should. They're heroes. But we have heroes every day that literally respond to a domestic violence call or respond to, pull a car over or do something to protect us. They are the thin blue line that separates chaos from order, and they're the line of defense. And to see somebody executed, not even performing his duty, not going to a house, but executed, filling his car with gasoline so he could keep patrolling for people, is sick, and it needs to end.
And needs to end. And to reiterate the sheriff's words, Kennedy, saying exactly, so why don't we just drop the qualifier and just say lives matter and take that to the bank? When does that rhetoric change?
I don't know, but I really hope it does. And with all of these police deaths this year, and it's really scary, and I've said this many times, who would want to be a cop nowadays? I mean, it's, for a long time, anti-police groups have said, it's really not the most dangerous job. Alaskan crab fishing is more dangerous. And, that might be so statistically, but I think it takes a lot more courage to wear the uniform now. And all lives do matter. And unfortunately, for people who have been protesting some of these brutal deaths that we've seen over the last few years, there are no gains in your movement when you have actions like this. And unfortunately, the conversation just turns to the extremes instead of finding practical solutions for law enforcement and these communities. And it's tragic.
Right.
It's horrible for this officer.
All lives matter. And then there's another hidden effect that's sliding under the media coverage that is not on the radar screen. And we saw it in Bed-Stuy when the two policemen were assassinated in their cars. I come from a family, I hate to bring it up, but New York City firemen. What happened was that Christmas Eve, the New York City, that Bed-Stuy firehouse had to shut down because of safety for the firemen. So what happens then when you go after the cops, and you should not, these cops are so brave for what they do for us, keeping us safe, there's a cascading ripple effect where the firehouses may need to be shut down too for the safety of the firemen.
This was the 23rd U.S. law enforcement officer shot to death this year. Andrea, nobody wants to see a 24th.
no way. And especially here in New York, if you talk to the police, they do feel like they are getting hostility from the public, and they are some of the best. I mean, they blend in with the citizenry better than anybody. But you have a mayor in New York City that's been very anti-cop. I mean, he actually lectured the cops and wagged his fingers at the cops when the cops decided to turn their back on him for his anti-police rhetoric. That was their right, their First Amendment right to do so. This is what troubles me the most, though, and it didn't get a lot of media coverage, though, Sandra. A Democratic candidate for president, Martin O'Malley, tried to say that all lives matter. He was booed down. I mean, literally booed,
yeah, that's a good point.
hissed, told to be quiet. He then apologized and said that's not what he meant. Also, a lot of these Black Lives Matter.
Apologizing?
Yeah,
why would he
apologize for that? That's
but also,
insane.
a lot of these Black Lives Matter, these groups are funded by George Soros and the left. And the fact that people on the left can't say that all lives matter points to some real perversion.
Wouldn't it add to their
hypocrisy.
credibility if they stepped up and said, you know what, the sheriff is right, all lives do matter?
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to be a cynic,
right.
but it's incredibly divisive, and you have to think that, you know, some of that campaign is being waged by hoping that the division leads to votes, and that's sick.
Well, this story still developing. We'll keep our eyes on it. It is all about the outsiders in Iowa. Brand new polling showing Donald Trump and Dr. Ben Carson surging, while Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker plummets. Can Walker recapture his once top dog status in the Hawkeye state? And is Trump more than just a summer fling? And more proof that the American public is fed up with their leaders. The huge number of voters who say they're dissatisfied with the way things are going. What it could mean for 2016.